Welcome to this new Addon Spotlight. In this Addon Spotlight we're gonna look at the Havilland Delta Hotel 89 Alpha Dragon Rapide. As you can see, the airplane is already parked at an airport. It's parked at the airport of Groningen, Eelde, which is in the Netherlands. You can see some, I would say, blocks here to prevent that the aircraft will start moving. It's a aircraft with two propellers, and you can see the it's a pretty, I would say, pretty large one. The overall wingspan is 14.6 meters, and the overall length is 10.5 meters. So that's cool, right? The aircraft has a maximum speed of 175 miles per hour. You should never exceed that speed, and the normal operating limit is 150 miles per hour. Maneuvering speed 173 miles per hour, and the maximum flap selection speed is 90 miles per hour. The aircraft has two engines, as already mentioned. Those are the Gypsy Queens 3. There are some, I would say, limitations to that, right? It's specifically referring to the power rating. The power rating and the time limit in combination with the RPMs. For example, it's not recommended to, let's say, be on 2400 RPM for more than a certain amount of minutes. Because else, yeah, we will damage the engine, right? So for maximum takeoff, it's 200 horsepower, 5 minutes, maximum RPM 2400. And for the climb, it's the same power rating, 200 horsepower, 60 minutes, and then also 2400 RPM. Cruise, it's recommended to cruise at 185 horsepower. Time limit is unlimited, and the RPM is around at 2100 RPM. So keep that in mind, right, when flying this aircraft. So if we look at the details of the aircraft, you can see there's, I would say, a lot of time has been spent on the details, right? You can see everything is nicely fitted, although there might be some more details about, for example, the, say, screws, or I'm not sure if they're using screws, but I would say the connection points between the aircraft and the main body. Everything is working, right? So you can move it, you can move the flaps, move the ailerons without any issues. Flaps can also be moved. Didn't show it yet, but here you go, right? So you can move them. Let me have a closer look, right? So you can see these are moving while managing the flaps, of course, with the buttons. When we go inside the aircraft, you will see that by default it's in this view. You can see that the nose is pointing up, right? That's expected, because if you would go outside the aircraft, you would see that it's, I would say, overhauling to the back. So that makes taxiing a little bit challenging with this aircraft. Looking around us, this is all nicely detailed. If you look at the meters, you can see that there's also some time spent on that. I would say, lights in the description around the lights and buttons does require some more, I would say, some more attention. But keep in mind, this is a community release. It's freely available. I will put a link to the download in the downloads or in the description of this video. So you can have a look yourself if you want. So let's have a look at the buttons which are available. So this one, right, you can see, let me zoom in a little bit closer. You can see if you're moving this button, it will do some magic, right? You will see, okay, hey, you can't read the descriptions here, but what it actually is, according to the manual, it's the fuel gauge select switch, right? So you can set it to either this side, you can set it to this one, or to this one, or to off. So this is off, I can read it, but the other options I really can't read, so I'm not sure what they are meaning, right? So that's kind of challenging. Here we've got the speed, and of course we've got the altitude here, climb rate, the artificial horizon, and then when we go up here, you can see the side slip, left turn, right turn. You can see some lights which are all related to oil pressure. left and right for the left and right engine. You've got the float option, which is, let me have a look. It's not described in the manual, but it's working. So what is it? It's kind of weird. It's not described, but it should have a function. It's not. I would say the manual which comes with the airplane is really great, right? You can see that they spent some time on it, but it looks like they forgot to describe this button. It looks like it's off and then float or something. I'm not sure. And this is ground. It's hard to read. So that's one of the, I would say, things which probably needs to be updated in newer versions. Then we've got this button, that's number 3, which is the yaw height control. And what this simply does, it hides the control. So they've added a button which hides this control, which is great for us because now we can have a look at the other buttons in the aircraft. You can see that the controls or the camera views, which I'm currently using, I'd say they're kind of hard to use. So if you want to have a close look at the buttons inside the aircraft, it might be better to use your mouse or your joystick if you're using it, and then moving around. So let me see if I can find, I would say, a better view. I think this one might be the best, and then simply zoom out. When we go here to the bottom, we can see some more buttons being displayed here. One of them is the suction gauge, that's this one. These ones were already discussed, including the climb rate. Here you can see the vacuum. Then here we've got some light options, right? So you can see here's the generator, which you probably need to switch on first. Then you've got the ground flight option, and that's described in the manual that you need to switch it to flight, I would say somewhere in the process, so let me figure it out. Initially it needs to be set to ground. In that case, you can, I would say, start the engine with an external V2 or 12V starter battery plugged in. If you want to use the internal battery, then you need to switch it to flight, right? Then you need to switch to this, so you can easily switch that. Navigation lights, landing lights, panel lights. Then we've got the engine starter buttons and the magnetos, right, which are required to start the engines. So that's all kind of cool. The engine starting goes pretty easy. I will show you in a few minutes after we finished everything. So then on this side, and let me zoom out a bit, we've got some other buttons. We've got the shutdown if light on after engine start, right? So then we need to shut down the starter. If you switch on the starter too long, it's not good for the engine. The good thing is that it will automatically switch off the starters. You will see it in a few minutes. Then we've got the oil pressure, I think. Yes, on both sides. We've got the RPMs here, both left and right, and some information about the oil temperature, right? So this is the temperature itself. You can see it's a kind of a modern one compared to the other one. Then when zooming out a bit and when going to the right side or left side of the aircraft, sorry, then we've got the amperes and the voltmeters, right? All the electrical parts. We've got some manuals here. We've got a button here to lock the I think it's the window itself. Following to that, we've got the throttles and the mixture controls, right? So we can let's say change the mixture to make the aircraft fly more lean. And then this one, which is number 40, is the trim wheel indicator. So it's the to trim the aircraft. This one we didn't discuss yet, right? It's, you won't see it probably normally in new aircrafts anymore. But this is, say, you can use it to navigate. You won't see it in modern aircrafts anymore. On the right side, there's not much compared besides this one. But yeah, as you can see, if we are moving it, nothing happens. Then if we go to the back of the aircraft, so let me, I'll Let me do that manually by going really inside the aircraft. You will see that it has some passenger seats. Not going too fast. So some passenger seats here, so you can take passengers with you if you want. All of them are, I would say, nicely detailed. There's also, I'd say, some fire extinguisher. Hopefully we don't need it. And that's it, right? So it's a nice aircraft, has a lot of options. There are still some points which I would say would require some attention, like the labels in the cockpit. So let's see if we can start this airplane, right? So let me see. So to do that, we need to double check if everything is on, right? So the generator, we already switched it on. We can switch on the magnetos. And that didn't sound well, right? So why we... Oh, that's another thing. You need to wait 30 seconds between... If the engine for some reason fails to start, you need to wait. And as you can see, some of the buttons are not always working as expected. Not sure if it has to do with Flight Simulator itself, but now nothing happens. Come on. This... Maybe we should set it like this. Come on. It did work when I tried it earlier, so... Didn't sound well, right? Both engines don't like it. So let's see what we did wrong in that case. Now it doesn't like us at all anymore. That always happens, right? If you try to play around with something, then it doesn't work. So, come on. Reset the view. And let's try it again from scratch. So we're double checking everything. So we're switching to the manual. It's always a good idea, right? To read the manual up front. So it says, okay, you need to start the engines. Needs to be set to either ground or flight. Yeah, there's nothing special, so it should, I would say it should work, but again, it should. Let's simply switch all the buttons. And then we're gonna do the... Not sure what it was. I hit the Control E key, right? It looks like it started now. So probably need to double check some things and how to control the aircraft itself, right? Because I now, I would say, tricked it by hitting the Control E key. As you can see, the aircraft is nicely started, engines are nicely running. So let's use the pushback truck to start the pushback, and let's see if we can fly with the aircraft, because that's of course the most important thing after this. So don't release the parking brakes until you're connected, because that will cause some issues. And in addition to that, you will see that in this case it's a little bit weird because the truck drives inside the aircraft, because this is a little bit special one, right? It has two wheels on the front and one on the back. So it looks like that the connection point for the truck is on the back, which is a little bit weird, but probably also some work to do. So let's wait till it's connected before we're releasing the parking brakes. And then let's speed up. Another thing I need to warn you about with this aircraft is that since it's, I would say, running or being high on the front and the, I would say, wheel on the back is on the ground, that you need to be very careful when hitting the brakes, because if you are a little bit too enthusiastic with it, well, then you can already guess what happens. Then you will end up on your nose. And there's no way to recover that besides, I would say, restarting Flight Simulator. So we need to wait till the truck is away to its own position. It requires some time, of course. And then we can simply take off, right? So we can set the flaps already to 15 degrees. There's a bus driving, so let's remove the parking brakes and then let's see what happens. As you can see, you only need to remove the parking brake itself. After you've did that, then the aircraft will already start driving, which is cool. It's not too fast, of course, but it's, I would say, within a reasonable speed. You can always increase the speed if you want. And then we're gonna check if we can take off. Right, you can see there are multiple views available. It really depends which one is your favorite. This one might be a little bit hard, right? Because you can't see it clearly. And this one could also be a challenge because you can't look over the nose. So this one might be a suitable one, although I think this one is probably the most realistic one. So the weird thing is, because it looks like that the lights of both the oil pressures are now burning, right? Including, let's say, this one. But yeah, let's give it a try. You can see that the lights are now off, right? So you can see that the wheel of the aircraft now starts to lift up in the air. You need, of course, make sure that we're centered on the line. So let's go inside the aircraft again. You can see that if you reset the view, it comes back to this view, which is, I would say, might be a little bit easier. But of course, then you can't have a look at the controls. And we're airborne, right? So we can change the yaw damper if we want, right? Or the trim. Because else you might, I would say, go sky high or might descend too fast. So I'm gonna change it a bit. And then we're airborne with this nice aircraft. As you can see, you can't, I would say, pull up the gears, right? Because they're kind of fixed in the, say, inside the wings, right? See it? It's there, and you can't, or you don't need to do gears up and gears down. The aircraft doesn't have an autopilot, right? So you need to fly it completely manually. But that should not be an issue. So once you're airborne and you're happy with the altitude and you're on cruise speed, don't forget to change some things in the aircraft, right? There's one thing which you need to do is, of course, you need to reduce the flaps. So we're gonna do that for now. And then there's of course the mixture controls, which you can use to, I would say, make the engine a little bit more cleaner and also to reduce the RPMs. So let's have a look at that. Okay, move up to here, and then you can use the buttons over here, these ones, to control the mixture. Right, so these ones are for the throttle, and these ones are for the mixture. Right, so you can change them, and the good thing is that you can change them per engine. Although you see it's pretty hard to say control that a bit. And then you can always need to, you should always keep an eye on the RPMs, right? So would definitely recommend you to have a close look at these meters, because we're now going, let's say, you do see that the RPMs are not decreasing, so we're gonna decrease speed as well. Of course, the most important thing is that you keep an eye on the climb, right? You don't want to decrease L2 too much if you're gonna decrease the say throttle. The nice thing is that there are several liveries available already via the, I would say, Flight Sim 2, for example. There are already multiple liveries available which you can download for this aircraft. So besides the default livery, you can use also the additional ones. So let me switch on the landing lights, or the nav lights in this case, to see if they're working. I don't see them yet, to be honest. Or did I just switch them off? Could also be. That's so I'd say it's kind of hard to figure out what's on or off. I was thinking that this would be on and the other one would be off. But it would make sense that on the top is on and on the bottom is off, just like with the magnetos. So we're airborne. I would say the aircraft flies, I would say, pretty nice. There are some lights also on the front and on the back. Not sure if they're all working right. We just checked it and it looks like that there's some work to do there. Maybe it's the landing light, so let's try that. That should be an easy one, right? Yeah, you don't see much differences, right? So that's probably some work which is in progress. Again, I would say it's a nice aircraft to fly with. It's some, I would say, olden flight, or I would say one of the older aircraft times. But it's really nice. It's just with the other de Havillands, suitable airplane. Probably really nice to do some bush trips. So I would encourage you to try this one out. You can find the download link in the description of this video. Well, I would say, pre-warn you, you need to register prior to downloading the aircraft, but that's kind of normal nowadays. So make sure that you're creating an account, and after that you can download the aircraft, and there's some older aircrafts, like some Fokker aircraft, which you can download. Here ends this video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you've got questions or comments, then feel free to post them in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm posting, then consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.